Hello, everyone. So we've got an email for you to send questions to. That's the extension .broadband@wsu.edu. We've got collaborative meeting notes, so you are welcome to add to those as we go along. A couple folks in the group are designated note takers, so they'll be helping to structure that, but we'd love your contribution. So since we have so many people on the call today, we'll do introductions in the chat. My name's Sabrina Roach, and I work for WSU Extension, along with a number of these fantastic folks. And we've got Emily Grossman today. Emily has been around for a while in commerce, but she is just recently joining us with a title that she can tell you about, I think. I think it's gone consistent in the email. Signature. So Emily's going to have to leave us today at like 2:30, 2:40. And then Dustin and I we'll talk with you, like we'll expand on some of the themes that she'll be talking about. All right. Emily.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I can't see who's on the call. It's kind of weird talking to a bunch of people when you can't actually see their faces or who they are, but I'm just going to do it. My name is Emily Grossman, and I work at the Department of Commerce. I, up until February 1st, was a policy manager in the housing division. And on February 1st, I switched over to the local government division and was appointed to be the new digital inclusion managing director of a new unit called Digital Inclusion Programs. So I work alongside the state broadband office. We share some resources and some staff, but the goal is that the digital inclusion programs unit will be its own standalone operation with 6 or 7 staff members. And the portfolio of work, I think, will evolve. But for the time being, right now, this year, 2023, the 3 main focuses of the unit and my work will be the Digital Equity Forum, the Digital Equity Dashboard, which, and I'm not sure how much various folks on this call know about these things. I'll let Sabrina do whatever level setting is required. And then the third one is the Digital Navigation Program. So the Digital Navigator grants that were funded, I think there were 3 different funding rounds over the past year. I'm going to try to continue those if possible and do that programmatic work. Hopefully, I hope we'll have an opportunity to do it. So that's me. Sabrina, what should I jump into next? I talk a little bit about the plan for 2023 and how this group might be able to be involved or at least know about what's happening.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing to put in the mix, and then we can talk a little bit about interagency initiatives.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, I've been doing housing for over 20 years and poverty reduction work for about 4 years. And in both of those fields, I've established many relationships with state agencies, people at various state agencies in Washington. So, I've worked really closely with every agency from the Department of Revenue to DSHS to Employment Security Department, even, State Transportation Office. So I think that a lot of what I will be talking about and a lot of what I'm going to bring to this work is just how to partner with state agencies and what are sort of the most effective ways and the best practices so that we're doing good stuff, like we're not all tapping the same people over and over with the same questions, and that we're coordinating and we're leveraging each other to be more efficient and be able to meet our deadlines. So that's really what I'm going to be focused on. And I think that, there's obviously a conversation, to be had with this group along those lines, like how do we streamline and coordinate? Because a lot of people are talking to a lot of people about digital equity right now. There's a lot of planning going on. So I'm going to bring up just a PowerPoint that just provides sort of a quick visual. I put this together for Dr. J at the Office of Equity because she was like, I just want to look at one thing and understand what's going on. So I tried my hardest, and I'm going to show you. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. I'm terrible at screen sharing, so you're probably going to see all kinds of stuff that you don't want to see, but I'm gonna make it happen here. Okay, let me know. I'm gonna, let's see. I gotta move the, hold on, I gotta figure out how to move this so that, just bear with me for a minute. There we go. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes? Okay, cool. I get this bar out of the way. I think this is okay. Okay, so this is just, like I said, a quick visual. What I hope to convey with this is just sort of a brief, sort of shallow snapshot of everything that's going to be going on, at least as far as the state of Washington is concerned this year, around, over the next 2 years, actually, around digital equity and planning. So we start over here in February, March 2023. This month and next month, like I said, I'm really going to be focused on the Digital Equity Forum. The Digital Equity Forum was born out of House Bill 1723 last year. They had some meetings, stopped having some meetings. I think that the group just maybe needs a little bit more time to form, a little bit, more attention paid to governance and some of the bigger issues. We're going to bring them back online and take sort of another bite at the apple. So there are actually 3 feedback sessions that are scheduled, not just for the appointed members of this group, but for the community members. So folks who had an interest in it, folks who were attending the meetings, to kind of acknowledge and discuss what happened in 2022. Not everybody had a great experience with it, and a lot of harm was actually done, I think, in the way that the group was administered, and some of the roles people played, a lot of different factors. So there are going to be 2 sessions sort of geared at looking back at that, thinking about it and processing it. One of them is actually today at 3 o'clock, right after this. And then there's another one Friday. And then on March 3rd, there'll be another feedback session, community session, that's focused more on looking ahead. So we're going to be reconvening this group. What should it look like? What are the priorities? So stuff about what's going to happen going forward. One aspect that we will be taking a look at in terms of the forum is obviously the membership. It seems like maybe some of the appointed members aren't going to want to be appointed anymore. I think there'll probably be some folks transitioning off and transitioning on. And also the group is going to have an administrative chair appointed. So that'll be a difference going forward. Those of you who were involved last year will notice that there is going to be sort of a neutral chair, chairperson there to kind of facilitate and keep things going, which I think will be a big value add. Also this month, we are working on finalizing some digital engagement and outreach plans, digital outreach and engagement plans. And so for us at the state, state government, we're really focused on the BEAD 5-year plan and the digital equity plan that we are supposed to be developing in order to get those funds from the government, those infrastructure funds and planning funds. So we're trying to just develop one process where we're reaching out to communities and getting their feedback for both of these plans simultaneously, and also hoping to fold in the state digital equity plan that was authorized, required in 1723. The state plan is going to be due every 2 years. So we want to start, discussing that plan and informing that plan as well. So hoping to do all of this outreach and engagement at once, one process, one big group, and leverage all of the efforts to the extent that we can. And then you can sort of look forward to the big, major time frames going forward. This fall, our draft NTIA equity plan is going to be due. Our 5-year action plan will be due. I won't read all of the different boxes here, but you can see that we've got digital equity plan stuff due all throughout the year. But I think that the big timelines for us are December 2023. We've got 2 big digital equity deliverables that are going to be due. And so what I'm hoping is that we can all work together and coordinate on the outreach and engagement to inform both of those plans, and not, duplicate each other's work and get in each other's way. And we can create a good partnership and leverage, each other to meet our common goals. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think, take a few questions if folks have them. Or you can reach out to me later. I just dumped a bunch of information down, so.
Emily, this is Dan Fagerly with W16. So you talked about the unified process, and so is that the unified process, the WSU BAT teams and tribal plans that they're working on, digital equity and other ones that have input in, and the infrastructure plans that everybody's working on presently across the state?
That's my goal. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I started this job, let's see, 3 weeks ago today, and sort of learned that all of these, efforts were happening all at once. So I'm doing my best to align them. We are up against a wall because in order to meet the NTIA, the deadlines, we've got to get the broadband office already has a contractor on board, and they already had an outreach and engagement plan all developed. But now I'm asking them to stop and sort of reevaluate things and think about how to, leverage each other, everything that I described before. So I hope that by the end of February, I'm going to have some kind of framework that will include everyone giving input in a hopefully as coordinated way as possible. And that, like I said, that we're being able to reuse all the work that, is already being done, instead of just sort of staying in our silos and not leveraging each other's work to the best of our abilities. That would just be a big waste. So that's what I hope will happen.
Good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Hi, Emily. This is Will Durden, and I really also, not really a question, just want to echo the thanks. It's been confusing for folks who've been interested in it to really see what's going on, and even just the slides you shared, where the state and the federal is kind of aligned. Like, that's been a big question for us, and that actually just answered a lot of it for me. So I really appreciate your initial work here. I know it's a lot of it's such heady work to try to get different plans and different timelines all together. So we really respect the challenge there and are here to support in any way we can. And also really respect you sharing that there's a chance to maybe come back and look at some of the sessions that were done where some folks didn't feel included or really understand how they could participate. We have a lot of expertise we'd love to have leveraged in a state plan and a state system. So just look forward to the work going forward. And you've got some really willing partners in the community and technical college system who want to help the state really make the most of this. So thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good to hear. I think the partners in this space are just so awesome. I mean, I found that everyone is really willing to get involved and help out and spend time, which is very refreshing.
I just want to put here in the chat that page 5 of the workbook has timelines and lots of arrows and dots that explain part of this. Emily brings a number of new things to the table, but at least the arrows and dots on page 5 of the workbook have some of the basics when it comes to the NTIA process and House Bill 1723.
Yeah, maybe thanks for sharing that, Sabrina. Maybe I'll jump in here just for a quick second and just say really excited to have Emily in this position to kind of coalesce some of this digital equity and digital inclusion work at the state level and really move it toward a an ongoing, sustainable, community inclusive ecosystem and process that can make sure that we keep our eye on the ball. As I've said in a lot of previous sessions, this is really more than developing local digital equity plans that are submitted on June 14th. It's really about creating strong digital equity planning and service communities. And this is a really positive step in that direction. And I think that it might feel a little overwhelming and confusing with multiple digital equity plans and forums and different tracks of work. I do think that that will become much clearer, and it will be an ongoing relationship where there's opportunities for these local plans to really feed into and shape these centralized statewide approaches, and also opportunities for these local planning and implementation efforts to benefit from the work that gets done at the state level and really have a nice symbiotic relationship there. And so I'm sure that we will be focusing more on this, and perhaps invite Emily back when when there's a little bit more clarity there, but also want to make sure we save a little bit of time to the second part of what Emily was going to discuss here. So maybe Sabrina, you could tee Emily up for that.
Sure, thanks. Emily, I've really admired and appreciated your interagency work and your poverty reduction work. It's probably the state plan I read the most. Of all the state plans I read regularly, it intersects with this digital equity work so closely. Can you talk a little bit about any more specificity about your recommendations for working with agencies or working groups that are interagency in nature, like the poverty reduction group? And I'll just put a link in the chat to the poverty reduction group.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out, but I probably won't be able to get to everything. So the question is how is the best way to go about it, or how to partner with state agencies? What's the specific, so I don't ramble all over the place, because I will.
Sure. We've had conversations about state agencies and how some of them have programs that do contribute to digital equity. They might use somewhat different language, and we've talked about different ways of surfacing that documentation of that capacity, but also working through how those state agencies have a presence in our local communities.
Right.
And so there's got to be a way of doing this planning that takes all of that into account and advances it so that we're making more digital equity capacity in our communities in a coordinated way.
Yeah, no, I think state agencies have a ton to offer. I mean, we've got data. So that's one, I think, really important thing that state agencies can contribute. For instance, DSHS, they've just got oodles and oodles of data all about people who are experiencing poverty and are eligible for their programs. What do they look like? What are the demographics? Where do they live? Are they enrolling in programs or not? So I think that sort of having a connection with whatever sort of data and information is there is a really important thing. Sabrina, like you were saying, there's also a lot of overlap in terms of sort of the target, I don't want to say population, but the folks who we all want to be reaching, and able to, understand and describe, the barriers, and also the people we want to be able to outreach to, for instance, like with, things like internet subsidies to get the word out. So, state agencies have a really strong role to play in getting the word out about our stuff, but also in providing sort of what I think of is like digital navigation with a lowercase d. So not digital navigators, but there are lots of state workers who are like boots on the ground, working with people experiencing poverty, who qualify for their programs and also might qualify, for programs that we're working with. They can be that connection, so that people are increasing digital skills and also finding out about, what we have to offer, which I think is really important. I would say that, something that I think is really important is that when you're trying to work with state agencies, there's sort of a vertical and a horizontal action you have to get going on. So it's really important to work with the folks who are kind of, at customer facing level, your case managers, your care connectors. So you've got to sort of infiltrate that level, but also at the top so that it can then filter down too. So whenever you're trying to engage with a state agency, I think that's the most important thing to remember is, find out who's in charge and tell them, but that's not enough. You've got to really sort of talk to the people who are on the ground doing the work too. And so figuring out what those opportunities are, like where are those venues and forums and opportunities, I think is really key.
And could I ask a follow-up question on that in terms of like the local planners that are in the room here? What are some ways that we could go about identifying those opportunities for that engagement?
Well, the short answer is just ask me. I mean, I can't, that's just the thing. It's like state government, like we love hiding the ball. I wish I could point out a chart where it says, here's, who you should talk to regarding all of these different things. But, it's just it's a big tangled mess. So I would say find somebody that you can ask, like me. And, there are sort of a group of us who were engaged with the poverty reduction work group and are still working on a lot of sort of interagency things, legislation, policy, program implementation. We talk to each other, we meet several times a week, and we can help make those connections for you. And I can't really think of anything better than that. I wish there was something sort of more official, but not that I know of. But I'm always happy to help, like point anybody in the right direction. So.
And I can say that if anybody wants a sneak peek at my list of themes and guests for this series, it's a lot of the folks that Emily is talking about, that she helped us with the list as well. still cooking on it though. It's a lot of coordination. Emily, I know you have to go soon. So I'm wondering, Dustin, do you think we could cover workshop 15 and maybe let Emily go?
Yeah. Is there, unless there's anything, any final thoughts that you'd like to impart upon us, Emily?
I think as you already pointed out, Dustin, that there's a hearing in the morning. House Bill 1793 is to authorize a new funding source and account for digital equity planning. I'm going to be testifying at that hearing. Because this program wasn't included in the governor's budget, Commerce can't come out and support or sign in pro, but we do support the idea of having a mechanism that brings in permanent funding for digital equity. And the state agencies that I was just talking about, DSHS, DCYF, Employment Security Department, they've been emailing me all day saying, how do we help? How do we contribute? What can we do? So that interest and awareness of the issue is there. And I hope we have a lot of opportunities to, it's 1793. House Bill 1793, and it's in House Finance tomorrow at 8 a.m. And I'll stop there.
Oh, one thing maybe to close on, Emily. I was thinking about as you kind of spin up the Digital Equity Forum again and focus on these different initiatives and think about coordinating these things. I know you're working and building a list of contacts. And so I think we could help facilitate that if anyone wants to kind of get included in that list and is interested in following developments around this closer. I mean, we'll share Emily's email as well, but perhaps we could help compile a list for you as well of interested parties. So shoot us a note if you'd like us to also share your email with Emily.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Emily.
Bye.
Okay.
So did you want to jump into the kind of how this feeds into some of the worksheets, or did you want to touch on something else first?
Are there any big picture questions that anyone has? Okay. I think it might be useful to talk about worksheet 15, and I can paste it in the chat. Oh, I think Kayla already did it. I love it. So the worksheets. Have some of you been getting into the worksheets in the workbook? I love them because they break down complex things into manageable bites. So with the statewide resources, they could supplement the local efforts.
Yeah, so as far as worksheet 15 goes, last week we talked a bit about the digital equity asset inventory and understanding what programs and services and pieces are already in place to support digital equity programs. And I do think it's worth revisiting that briefly because last week we really focused on distributing this out to local partners and bringing in information around what is being done in the local community to address digital equity needs and digital equity priorities. And through our role in providing these digital equity base maps and coordinating and coalescing some statewide efforts, we will be working on bringing in some of those statewide digital equity assets that we're aware of that we can pull in data at scale to help build your local asset inventories. But there may be, arms or local branches of these statewide entities that you can distribute this digital equity asset inventory sheet to in order to kind of build out a stronger sense of what's available in the community. So think both those local actors, but also those state agencies that have a presence in your communities. And then kind of going back to our focus today and what we'll focus on next week will be this digital equity and access needs assessment. You all may recall that we introduced and announced that we would be providing digital equity base maps when we kicked off this planning effort, and those should be available very soon. And these will lay out a lot of that data that Emily was referring to, of course, in a way that is aggregated and respectful of the privacy considerations that need to be taken into account. Well, we will have these base maps. We'll go over those base maps next week and can talk about some of the components, like what areas appear to lack access to digital equity services, and what populations seem to lack access to digital equity services. But really with what Emily was talking about, the focus on the statewide resources that could support or supplement these local efforts is an area to focus on. So as Emily continues to quickly pull together this and reconvene this digital equity forum and some of the state agencies out there and help facilitate connections, that data and information that we get from them should be very helpful in understanding what's happening at the local level. And that will all kind of fit into a lot of what we'll talk about next week. I don't necessarily want to put somebody on the spot, but I might, because I think he can probably handle it. As we're talking about state agencies, one that we will be featuring in short order, I think March 7th is the date for that one. I did see we had Casey Merchant on from OSPI, and I think we'll go into a lot more detail on this. But Casey, I don't know if you have any thoughts on, how folks, in the meantime, just some initial thoughts on how to engage with OSPI in terms of understanding the kind of statewide resources that might be available to support those local efforts and digital equity planning. And if not, that's okay. I have you on mute, Casey.
Oh, I was thinking we need, what I would like to see is a way for us to be able to kind of communicate after the Zoom goes away. Like as soon as like sometimes I'm like, oh, and I've got somebody's information, and then zoop, and we're gone. So I'm thinking that if there's a way for us to be able to have a hub of communication outside of Zoom, is that something that and I talked to Sabrina a little bit about some options that were out there. So what I don't know what is available for other state agencies for either communication platforms or ways to essentially break people down into like a master group and then subgroups. So like team 1 can work kind of in their little bubble, and then team 2 is over here in their bubble. But like sometimes team 2 can go, hey, team 1, you know, we've been working on this. What are you working on? And or how are you meeting that? Or how are you doing that? So I think that is sort of something that I think K-12 can support, because in an education setting, that's really the heart of like some of the things that we support in schools, is that like ability to, I guess in the sense of like an online learning environment. But that's sort of what we're in, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that, and happy to talk more about what that might
Right.
look like in terms of.
I think for us, I think OSPI acts as sort of a hub for all the schools to be able to coordinate if K-12 is in the space. We're sort of the hub that kind of can tie them all together.
Yeah, thanks for that, Casey. We'll follow up and explore
Right.
that.
I
more
mean,
with
for
you.
us, our biggest resources we can send out, you know, to all the tech folks of pretty much every district, and then get the communities from that connected. One of the other things that is sort of an adjacent space is libraries and school libraries, and the intersection between school libraries and K-12. I talked to a couple librarians this week as I was doing some research on where that intersectionality of anchor institutions kind of meet when it comes to providing connectivity and access to the communities they serve. So I think that would be a good resource for us to work on. And I know there's a lot of library folks in here, so let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Casey. Maybe also kind of an obvious one that we engage with regularly is Washington State Broadband Office. I thought it might be a good opportunity to, if he's still on, just introduce Jeff Rasmussen to those of you that haven't met him yet. You'll be seeing a lot of him in the Broadband Action Team meetings. Jeff, are you still on? Do you want to just pop on and say hi? Maybe he's not on anymore. But Jeff Rasmussen, he will be engaging a lot with the local broadband action teams. If he hasn't attended yours already, he's probably reached out, but wanted to just call that out. And Sabrina, I can hand it back to you to add anything or take us forward.
Sure thing. Let's see. So do you think that the planning funding within 1793 is related to state digital equity plans every 2 years? Is the only outstanding question I had.
I don't know that, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with 1793 beyond what was mentioned earlier, but I'm sure we'll be talking more about it in assuming it proceeds. One thing I wanted to point you all to is that we we have Joyce Abbott here from the state library. So another state agency we have, and she just dropped her email in the chat. So new workforce librarian, great to have Joyce on the call. Joyce, do you want to just hop on and say hi?
Hi. Sorry, I'm so new that I have as many questions as all of y'all, but we are a centralized agency. We have access to a lot of data and statistics. All we do is answer reference questions. Hit us up if you need anything at all.
Awesome. Thanks, Joyce. I don't know if I just dropped a link in the chat for folks. We want to make sure that we're continuing to focus on the questions and the questions that you have and issues you want to see covered. So this is just a Google form that will, it's just short and sweet, put a topic or question in that you would like to see us focus more attention on, and can include your name and email if you'd like us to follow up and discuss it more, but not necessary if you just want to throw in an anonymous topic or question, but would really appreciate any feedback there.
Dustin, were we able to confirm next week's workshop?
Waiting on the details, but we will focus on the base maps and the rest of this operationalizing of worksheet 15. So we focus on the digital equity base maps. The link Sabrina shared is the statewide map, but there will be local base maps available for each community participating in planning within the next few weeks. So we'll look forward to that. And I think we're kind of in a weird spot, Sabrina, where we don't necessarily have time for breakout sessions.
Yeah.
But I think we covered most of what we set out to cover. So what do you think about giving folks a little time back?
That's exactly what I think we should give them. 10 minutes back. Thanks everyone for coming today. I'm looking forward to the maps, the base maps next week.
Eagerly awaited. Thanks everyone.